Welcome, everybody, to Zero Doubt Podcast. If this is your first time here, then I want to thank you for coming on and listening to this amazing conversation we are going to have. And if you're a returning listener, then first of all, I want to apologize because it's been a couple months, but we'll talk about that later. But I'm so glad to be back, and thank you for coming back today. We got an amazing story. If you listen to our podcast, then you know it's all about stories. It's all about personal growth. It's all about transformations. It's all about conversations and hearing things from other people that, you know, resonate and help you on your journey, because we're all on this amazing journey of life, ups and downs, lefts and right. You know, we talk about that you got to go through the struggles to get to the glory. And it's true. It's true in every aspect of life. There's an up, there's a down, there's a back, there's a front. There's going through pains and there's going through joys. And we're all here together, and we're going to share an awesome story about Amer Ahmad, who now is a good friend of mine and is now a team member of Zero Doubt Club. And we are so grateful to have him on board to help us spread the message and help others along their journeys. So thank you. Thanks for coming on, man.
Oh, thanks for having me. I'm excited to do it.
Yeah. So we're going to talk about your story and, you know, why you're here and why you're helping us, because, I mean, dude, you're a really smart dude. You went to like Harvard. Okay. You worked on Wall Street. And, you know, I'll be honest with you, we're paying you right now. I mean, sure, you're in it with some sweat equity, but you're a trainer, you're a coach. And, you know, compared to Harvard, Wall Street, you're taking a pay cut, man. Why are you here? What's going on?
So that's a long story. And I'm ready to get into it, actually. So you're right. I did go to Harvard, and I did work on Wall Street for a bunch of years. And I had some really successful years financially and otherwise, and I had a great career. But that part of my life is over, and now I'm really focused on a new part of my own journey, which is commitment to myself and commitment to serving and helping others. And it took me a long time to get there.
Sure.
And like you said, there's ups and there's downs, and there were some really down times in order for me to get to this place that I am. But I'm so happy to be here.
Yeah, no doubt. So let's talk about, like, okay, so you went to Harvard. Talk about that. Like, how was Harvard? How was, like, go through that process of life.
Sure. I mean, look, I grew up in Ohio with immigrant parents and who stressed the value of education and always taught us, you know, that if you work hard enough, you could accomplish anything. And so I worked my butt off. I was a good student. I went to Columbia for my undergraduate degree, and then worked on Wall Street. And I was lucky to get into Harvard and able to get my MBA there. And then I went back to Wall Street. And
why?
It was for me, it was like an amazing learning experience. I mean, you work tons of hours. You work with really smart people. You get to learn the ins and outs of investment banking and finance. I learned all about consumer retail companies and franchises and companies, actually much like Zero Doubt Club, that were growing and were figuring out what to do next. And so for me, it was an amazing experience. I made a bunch of money, met some awesome people, but that life does also take a toll on you.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I did it for 13 years, and you become a different person from the day you walk in. You start off as this like idealistic, recent graduate from Harvard University or whatever,
motivated, energized, ready to go.
Super ambitious.
Yeah.
Exactly. Like you want to change the world, like in your own little way and through your own piece of your corner of Wall Street or whatever. But it's full of greed. It's full of jealousies. It's like the movies. It's
Competition,
tons of competition, unhealthy, toxic relationships, drinking, just bad habits everywhere. And no matter how hard you try, no matter what kind of values you grew up with, no matter what you do to sort of try to maintain your own core and center and belief system, some of that stuff does take a hold on you too. And it did for me too.
So like how you felt inside, was crappy.
Absolutely. I mean, you're surrounded by all this greed and all this sort of oppressive ambition all the time. And you like there, it's almost impossible to not become a part of it, especially for, I did it for 13 years. And so I found myself changing as a human being. I started valuing things that I didn't care about before. I started really caring about money. I started really caring about power. I started caring about what people thought and what I looked like and how I was perceived by other people. And those things, and I was competitive, like ultra competitive in everything I did. It didn't matter what it was. It could be the smallest thing at home or with my friends. And that like constant ambition just takes over your life.
Mm-hmm. So you felt like deep down inside that wasn't who you were, and then you're thrown into this. Was there like a specific moment where you just felt like you started to like change?
Yeah. I mean, I feel like I definitely wasn't like that when I left home to go to college and grad school and stuff. I mean, those weren't the values I was raised with. They weren't. If someone would have asked me what are my core beliefs, I wouldn't have said any of those things. But I did start feeling a change when I became a vice president. Like there's all these levels. It's a very hierarchical thing on Wall Street. You start as an analyst and you can become an associate, and then you become a vice president, and then you become this. It's like all these levels, right? And I felt like once I got to be a vice president, I felt I like had all this power and like money and all this stuff like became super important to me. And it never really was before. I like to say I was like a small town guy from North Canton, Ohio, and I always maintained those core beliefs, and then all of a sudden they started to change.
Yeah, because you're from North Canton, Ohio, so a lot of our listeners are from this area, so you know what you're talking about here, and now you're this vice president on Wall Street.
Yeah, and it was it was like I keep saying, it was hard not to get caught up in it. You start really valuing the same things that everyone around you values. You start really focusing on how much money am I going to make this year, and what's the next deal that we're working on, and what's everyone buying, and where's everyone living, and where's everyone sending their kids to private school. I mean, stuff that just I never.
A lot of stuff, right?
Yeah,
a lot of stuff.
Yeah, a lot of stuff.
Okay, so you had all that new lot of stuff in your life, and what then? What happened after that?
Well, there came a point that I said, I'm not doing this anymore. And I did thankfully recognize that I always knew that like I didn't fit in and that like that wasn't my home. And so my firstborn was born as a micro preemie, like 2 pounds. And I made a decision then. I was like, I can't do this. I'm not doing this anymore. I'm gonna change my life. The problem is I picked another career that was just as competitive or even more, just as focused in money or even more, just as corrupt or even more, and probably made the situation a lot worse. So I went from being, a Wall Street investment banker to working in government finance. So I served as the deputy treasurer of the state of Ohio and chief financial officer of the state treasury. I then became the comptroller of the city of Chicago. And that's when things all started to go bad.
Mm-hmm. So how long was that period of when you left Wall Street to Chicago?
That was around 5 years.
So 5 more years of the same rat race. I mean, just, you were making good money, but you were just not operating under your true self.
The rat race was even worse. I mean, I thought I was making a lifestyle decision to like leave Wall Street and that whole world, but politics... even if I wasn't a politician, I was still appointed by a politician. It was even worse. The ambition and the competition and the constant daily stressors were just as bad, or if not worse.
Got it. Yeah. So then what happened?
So, as a part of an investigation that a number of federal agencies were doing, I became involved in a political corruption scandal. And by become involved, I mean that I was at the center of a political corruption scandal. I was the chief financial officer of the state of Ohio Treasury and had the ability to give lots of different contracts to different people. I gave one to somebody that I shouldn't have given one to.
Mm-hmm.
I knew I shouldn't have given it to him. And then he kicked back money to political campaigns as well as to other entities that I was an owner in and he was an owner in. And so it turned into a large political corruption scandal, and I was indicted with a number of federal crimes.
Got it.
And it all came crashing down. Everything that I had sort of worked so hard to build, this reputation, my financial security and success, the hard work that I had done to accomplish all that, just all in one day in 2013, came crashing down. It was pretty bad.
Yeah, you have wife, kids.
I had wife. I had 3 children. The youngest one was a baby still, and I was facing all these, charges of federal corruption, and was certain to go away to prison. With little kids still in the home, with a wife, with a large network of loved ones, cousins and friends and family members, and lots of people that supported me along the way and were rooting for my success. I let them all down.
Yeah. That must have been one of the toughest moments ever. Was it, would you consider your toughest moment back then?
Oh yeah, for sure. It was like my darkest days. Like to have everything, like the American dream or whatever. And then to see it all, sort of disappear in one day. That was, it was a really dark time.
Yeah. I can't imagine, but we all go through our own darkness. So you went to jail?
Yeah, I ended up going to prison. I was sentenced to 15 years in prison, based on a number of just bad decisions on my part to not cooperate and not participate in the investigations in a full way, and so I got the book thrown at me, and was sentenced to 15 years. So thankfully, I was sent to a facility that's a low security facility in California. It's in the port of Los Angeles. It's called Terminal Island, and the weather is beautiful there. You can see the ocean and there's palm trees. But it's an island and it has barbed wire all around it.
So it's not a vacation.
It's definitely not a vacation. It's not club fed, that's for sure. But at least the weather was nice. That's all I can really say about that. I mean, it was a brutal 10 years.
I mean, again, I cannot imagine. I mean, before we jump into talking about that, looking back now, why you made the decisions that you made that landed you there, what do you think that was, the difference? Yeah,
I've had such a long time to think about that. What we're talking about is something that happened in 2008 and 2009, right? And now it's 2024. So I've had 16 years to play back the decision to award those contracts and to arrange a conspiracy against the government. And all I can say about that is just it was hubris, it was greed, it was the feeling that nothing can happen to me because I'm in this great position, that I'd achieved so much. I went to Harvard. No one's going to look into my contracts. I mean, it was a lot of ego, a lot of, super competitive, and arrogant thinking, just distorted thinking.
So it's just a completely different mindset than you have now.
Oh my God. I mean, actually, it's hard to even talk about that person because I'm nothing like that anymore.
Right.
I don't even recognize that person. Like the idea that I made those decisions back in 2008 and 2009, it's just inconceivable to the person that I've become today.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's what a mental, physical, mind, body, and soul transformation does. And the universe forced you to go through that for a higher purpose, getting incarcerated for 10 years. And you found that answer in there, right?
Absolutely.
But before we talk about that answer, I want to know, leading up, what was your mindset? Like the first week, month? Like, what does that look like? Like, how does it feel and look like? And what does your body go through?
So humans are not meant to be caged like that, right? And so when any human, I don't care who it is and what age that person is or what gender that person is or what their social or educational background is, when that person is put into a cage, it is so shocking to your body, to your soul, to physically shocking, emotionally shocking. It is brutal. The first days and weeks and months were literally your body is in pain because you can't go anywhere. You're stuck, and your body is not yet used to that sort of the spaces. Your mind isn't used to this sort of the shrunken world all of a sudden that you inhabit. Your soul hasn't come to terms with the length of time that is going to be required here to get through this. Every part of your whole system, your whole operating system is in chaos, and it's fighting back. It does not want to accept it. No matter what you do, no matter how hard you try, your body wants to fight back, physically fight back. Your mind wants to say, no, this is not happening. I'm not going to do this. Your soul is saying, how am I going to do this? And so those first days and weeks and months were, it's very difficult to explain unless you've been through it. It's like being in a cage. And, it's funny when I was inside when COVID happened, and people would talk about how they felt imprisoned in their own homes.
Mm-hmm.
And I would always get upset about when I would read that in the newspaper, because I had the newspaper inside. And I would say, no, you don't know anything about being imprisoned. It's not like being imprisoned. Being imprisoned is like having no choices. And being in your own home and being able to eat what you want and sleep in your own bed and take a shower when you want, even if it was a society that was, in some chaos at that time, that's not imprisonment.
People would die for that in prison.
Yes. I would have died for that in prison.
Yeah.
And
you would have rolled the dice, huh?
Oh, I would have definitely rolled the dice. It's so shocking to your system to be in that, in that environment that I would have done anything to get out.
Wow. Okay. So when did things start getting better? If they did. Of course they did.
Yeah, no, they did. Thank God. It took. Oh, hello.
We got a friend that joined.
That's awesome. It took a little while. The first few months were difficult. I would say the first year was difficult. But there came a point in the first year and maybe that was after 6 months or 8 months, or I can't remember a specific day or night that everything shifted.
Mm-hmm.
But it had a lot to do with this realization that your soul is getting to, which is that you're going to spend a lot of time here, and that you might as well find a way to make it work. And I can't say that I ever got to that acceptance, even to the very end, but you start thinking that, like, what am I going to do? Like, what are the strategies to get through this? And because I had this education and these experiences, and there weren't a lot of people in the prison that had those educations and experiences like I did, I was able to find a home in the prison's education and recreation department. And for that, I credit that with saving my life. Like that, the ability to have a place that you can be safe and that you can call home in a horrible place like a prison was a gift from the universe. And so I became a GED teacher, and I dedicated my time to serving other people. And that's where everything started to change. I became a GED teacher. I became an ESL teacher. I learned a ton of Spanish. And then I became a fitness freak as a part of that. So I started working out myself. I started helping other people work out. And that's why I'm alive today.
Wow. Even in prison, the universe comes through.
Oh, absolutely. I did that for the whole time I was there. And, I'll tell you, there's nothing like the feeling, and the teachers who are listening know this, and the other people who are involved in coaching, and I'm sure you feel this too, Jeremy, like when you do something that helps somebody else and their life changes just a little bit, that feeling of like satisfaction and like purpose and meaning that I got from that in the darkest days of my life was just, it was epic. I remember the first graduation ceremony for GED students. This is back in, way back in 2015. And this mother came up to me and she said, I tried to get my son to graduate high school for years and years and years and years. And I couldn't do it, but somehow you got him to do that.
Wow.
And she gave me a big hug. And, those types of moments inside of a prison are, they're worth $1 million.
How'd your soul feel when that happened?
Oh my God.
You
feel like, holy man, it's okay. Everything is going to be okay. There came a point because of moments like that I started feeling like I can do this. I can get through this. And it wasn't just one thing. It wasn't just GED. It wasn't just teaching ESL or working out. It was all of those things. And like the little bits and pieces of each one of those things allowed me to have a little bit of hope. And enough hope to keep pushing, even when I didn't want to push anymore.
That's amazing. So my next question is, what would you say the biggest takeaway you got from prison was?
The biggest takeaway that I got in prison was that I can control my own destiny through my own behaviors, through the way I interact with the world, and through my that my journey in the world is mine and it's mine alone, and that I can turn my life into something really amazing, despite the fact that it was pretty bad. There came a point where I was like, I got this, and I'm going to be just fine, and my life is going to be awesome.
That's amazing.
And
now it's happening. And now it's happening. And you had that mindset in prison. Now, granted, a lot of people are in prison. We're in these mental prisons, right?
Absolutely.
But that's the whole point, is like you broke out of prison. You got out of prison. You got out of two prisons, actually. The mental prison, which, again, it could be just as painful for some people as the physical prison. And
actually, Jeremy, I know a lot of guys who got out of the physical prison, but they're still stuck in the mental prison. And, and I'm so grateful that that my particular set of circumstances and getting out and having a lot of support and And just having found purpose in my life has allowed me to not only get out of the physical prison, but also the mental prison.
Okay, so you're getting out, let's say 6 months from getting out. Like, what's the plan? Did you come up with a plan?
Actually, let me step back even before that. So a year before I got out, just when I thought things were like everything was, like the worst was behind me, it got worse because my sister passed away. And when you're that close to the end and something like that happening, it was bad. And a bad situation went to an even worse situation. And I could feel it. I could see the light at the end of the tunnel. Like I was almost there, and I missed the whole thing. And so I'll tell you, it took a whole new set of fortitude and resilience to get through that. To say, you know what? There was moments in that whole thing I was like, you know what? Forget it. No matter how hard I try, no matter what I do, like nothing is going to, like my life is just, it's not going to be good. It's not going to be the life that I want. And so just at the end, when you think you're going to be excited to get out and you start making plans and all this, this sort of huge tragedy in our family. And, but, I pushed through, and I'm so grateful that I did. It's been a tough time for our family. She was young and she died of cancer, and it's been a very difficult time. But, like I said, I found another small well of resilience.
Yeah.
And I pushed through that too.
Yeah. And that losing your sister when you can't see her in her last days. I can't imagine that. I have a very similar story of, young death on cancer, my wife, all that, and grieving family members can take a long time. But it's more the remembering that is important, and that actually brings them back. And then you can feel them like you're feeling her right now because you're talking about her, and you have that power and that ability. We all do. To remember loved ones. No one is truly ever gone.
Yeah.
Right.
I agree with that. And you know what? In a weird way, that happening so close to the end allowed me to sort of refocus my efforts and remind myself what really mattered. The lessons of the previous 9 years before that, like, really became, ingrained in my head in a way that they'll never leave me now.
Yeah.
Nothing can happen in my life that the lessons that I learned in those 9 years will be erased from my head. And so, and it gave me an excitement to get out. It gave me this urgency to get out, that that my own mortality and that somebody so close to me was gone. That gave me this huge sense of I need to get out, and I gotta get on with my life. I gotta get moving, and I gotta get my life back. This journey, that part of that journey, I said goodbye to, and I was ready to move on.
Yeah, that's awesome. And now what? Where did you go after that?
So I got out in January of this year, and it's now September of this year, and I'm living my best life.
Okay, let's talk about that. So you've been gone for 10 years. You come back. What's different? I want to hear, some of us want to know what that even looks like and feels like. Like, technology changed.
Oh, my gosh.
Were you a scroller on Instagram? Or was TikTok even around?
No, TikTok was not around.
How you come back to the TikTok?
So, I come back. And when I left, the phone was a phone and with some apps. Now the phone is everything. It's a computer. It's like everything. It's your wallet. It's your keys to your car and your house. I mean, everything is in your phone, right? And so, technology really has changed. I will admit I have become a bit of a scroller, and find myself late at night scrolling through all kinds of Instagram videos and whatnot. I justify by saying I missed a lot, so I'm just trying to catch up.
Yeah.
So technology really has changed. The world has changed. We live in a polarized and divided country, and there's wars all over the world. There's, the climate is different. I mean, there's a lot of things that changed in the world while I was gone. And, I came back to a family that's a lot different. My parents are a lot older than when I left them. The dynamics of my family are different. I had little children, and now they're teenagers. And it's just a different dynamic all around. But I'm so happy. I can't tell you, my life is so good right now. It is the best life I've ever had.
That's amazing.
So I got out in January and at the end of January, and was trying to figure out what I wanted to do. I was in this halfway house in Youngstown, Ohio. I did not know what kind of job I was going to try to get, or what kind of, what this next chapter would look like in terms of career and sense of purpose and all these things. I just was reveling in the fact that I was not inside anymore. And one fine day at the end of April, I found Zero Doubt Club, and Zero Doubt Club found me.
Yeah, we bring in transformation stories for some reason.
So that's when my time with this company started. First as a trainer, then now as a health coach, as well as someone who helps around with operations and strategy and growth. It's been the best time.
That's awesome, man. I like hearing that. Yeah, Eric will say that he brought you in too because he's been always saying we need to get a Harvard guy on board.
Well, we got one.
And then all of a sudden an application comes in from Harvard. So we bring him in, and, obviously I heard your story and fell in love with it. And I'm sure everyone who is listening to this fell in love with it and wants to, hear more of you. And that's great. We're going to definitely get out there and help others in any way possible, through podcasts, through coaching, through group training, through, hey, didn't you lose 31 pounds on a challenge through Zero Doubt Club?
I mean, look, so not only as my life changed and I'm on this personal transformation and journey of my own, my body is changing. I got out, I was 207 pounds when I got out, and I weighed myself yesterday and I was 176 pounds. It is amazing. It is, and it's all because of the things that we talk about here. It's the focus on my nutrition. It's the focus on my activities. It's adding cardio to my strength training. It's paying attention to what I eat. I use the app religiously. The app that we have here at Zero Doubt Club, and I swear by it now. I mean, it works, and it's worked for me, and it continues. I mean, I'm continuing to not only lose weight but gain strength, and I'm about to be 50 in 2 weeks.
You don't look it,
but I don't feel it at all.
I bet not.
I do not feel it at all. And so it's, for me, this is not only a spiritual and career transformation and all kinds of other things, but it's also my body and my my health and nutrition is changing in a way that's amazing.
Yeah, I mean, we talk gluten free. We talk about again the whole mind, body, and soul. And I think what happened in prison for you is all three got fixed at once, or at least started the process. Nothing gets fixed, right? No one's ever going to be whole until we get there. But, and that's the whole point of being here, is to refine ourselves and going through, again, this endless process. But, the mind, your thoughts that you're having are going to reflect your entire life, and they completely change through your story. Your story is a perfect example how it got caught up very slowly, one day at a time, in this egocentric, money, greed, like you talked about, and changed who you are. And because of that, then everything is not operating correctly. Your heart and soul is not aligned. And, for me, it was tearing my bicep. For you, it was getting incarcerated. For someone else, it could be something else. But this is all the signs that are out there.
Absolutely. So, and everyone is on their journey. One of the things that I've learned in prison and now as a trainer here is everyone has their own stories. Everyone has their own the things that have happened that have affected their lives in sort of really meaningful and deep ways. And the only way we can sort of help one another is to share our own stories and to connect with their stories and find a way to help one another through these times that we're in. And I feel like I'm so grateful. I'm able to do that every day here. I'm doing the hard work on the mental health side. I go to counseling. I've done this EMDR, eye movement.
And as you said, that work
has changed my life.
Yeah. So quick, you talk about that.
Yeah. It's a therapy that, that is well tested. And if you Google it, it's all over the internet. It's taking your traumas and changing them through eye movements and desensitizing yourself to those traumas and reprogramming your mind to change them from, front of mind traumatic episodes to back of mind, bad memories or just memories. Forget even the word bad, just memories. And it's changing my life. It has changed my life. But this takes a lot of hard work every week. I go to a therapist, I go to my EMDR, I talk to a peer support guy who's become like a brother to me. I journal every day, I pray, I do all kinds of stuff. And, but I'm finally feeling, Jeremy, like it's all coming together and I'm living the best life.
Yeah. That's awesome. There's so many these, I always say that we are, and a lot of people say this too, that we are self-healers, right? So you're going to all these different modalities because you have an intention of fixing yourself. And for the longest time, my mom would say, Jeremy, go talk to someone. And I was like, what are you talking about? I have no problems.
Yeah.
Okay. And then when I started, doing these different things too, and I threw obviously psychedelics in there, which is hard too. And, I'm interested in the EMDR because that's pretty cool. Eye movement stuff. But the point is that if you feel like any of these are calling for you to do it, then really think about it and go for it.
Absolutely. It doesn't, don't have to do all of this hard work all at once. Like for me, there was a long period where I was unable to have access to resources to be able to help me with some of my healing. And so now that I have all these resources, I want to do them all and use them all. And, one of the things that I've learned, in the past, in this, not only while I was incarcerated, but in the past 6 or 7 months since I've been out, is the sort of the concept of self-forgiveness. There has to come a point in my life, in my journey, that I forgive myself for being gone from my family, for making the mistakes that I made as a professional, for missing when my sister died. I have to forgive myself for all those things, and I have to find a way to find joy in the things that I still have left, and the things that I'm going to create in the future. And I'm there. I'm getting there.
Yeah.
And it's taken a long time, but I'm so happy to have that whole chapter behind me.
Yeah. No, that's amazing. Forgiveness is tough, man. Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
But just being aware that these are these issues that I still have and I'm working on is already, you're in the process.
Yeah, for sure.
So you just got to take it one day at a time and be super gentle on yourself. And nature is a healer, man.
Absolutely. Just being able to walk outside and sit on the patio feels like a gift every day.
So it's like, you're someone that, you feel like, I don't know, just stuck or out of it. Just remember this story of being locked in prison, and now you have the freedom to go out in nature.
Yeah.
So I would ask you, like, what's your like one piece of advice you would give someone that's maybe struggling with something?
Yeah, the one thing I would say, I've been thinking about that. The one thing I would say is that, I saw something on Facebook or while I was scrolling recently, and and it said something about even on your darkest day, the sun does set, right? And the next day, it rises again, and that is so true. Like, I went through some really dark days, and but the sun has set on those days.
Yeah. This is another day.
Yeah.
And tomorrow will be another day.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, I love that. Absolutely. So, I mean, I think, we'll leave it there. We're obviously going to come back. We're going to come back and we're going to do more of these podcasts together.
I love that.
Yeah. So, thanks for listening, and we'll be back sooner than later.
Awesome. Thanks, Jerry.
Guys.
Appreciate it.
Yep. See ya.